Hi, I'm Lauren from the Pikes Peak Library District, and I'm going to be talking to you today about January's craft, bullet journaling. So this is kind of a fun new hobby to pick up for the new year if you haven't tried it before. And it's this system that was developed by writer Carol as a way to get organized and kind of keep track of what you had to do from month to month, and also is kind of a cool journaling system. So what I'm going to be doing today is just taking you through really a bare bones kind of basic version of bullet journaling so that you understand generally how it works. And then as you get used to it, you can kind of dig a little deeper and explore more. And it's all about kind of finding the system that works best for you and that you're most comfortable with. So all you need for bullet journaling is something to journal in and something to write with. So pretty straightforward. This is our take and make this month. So from January 1st, while supplies last, you can go to any of our libraries and you can pick up a little kit that has a journal, a pen, and some stickers in it. But otherwise, any kind of notebook will do. If you don't have a notebook, you can take some pages, fold them in half, and staple them, and that will work just fine for this, especially if you just want to kind of follow along and see how it's working for you. Okay, so once you have those things, let's go ahead and get started. So the very first thing you're going to do for your bullet journal is actually just make an index. And what this is it's a great, just quick little reference for us to look at and say, okay, on page 4, I can turn here and I'll see my calendar for the month. On page 8, I can turn here and I can see my diary. So it's just a really good quick reference that tells us what page we want to flip to get to the information we're looking for. And it's really useful for this concept called threading. And I'll hold this close so you can see it. So you can see I've got, page 4 to 5 for my January calendar, so I know how long it is. But I have these weird little boxes here. So let's say that on my future log, it started on page 11, this list of tasks I want to complete, but I ran out of space or I changed what I wanted to do and I had to move it. Well, instead of just scribbling over our index and having all of these markings, I'm just going to write a comma and write the page it moved to. And now I know, okay, it started on page 11, now it's on page 18. So that's just a really easy way to keep track as we run out of space or change our priorities or move things around where things are in our journal. So what you'll do is you'll just go ahead and write out your index, and you can kind of keep filling it out as you add things or as you change things. The next thing that you're going to make is called a future log. So mine is on page 11. Normally they would be like right next to the front. And the reason your future log is usually right next to the front is it is the most important things you want to get done that month. So like what I have here is an appointment that says dentist. Okay, that's super important to me. I definitely want to go there. Maybe I have a cavity I need to get filled that day. And that way, as you're flipping through, right near the front, you've got this future log and you can just have a quick reference of the biggest things you need to make sure you do that month. So that can be really useful. Now, if you look here, you can see I've got a little triangle next to that January 8th dentist. Well, the reason for that is it's a really quick visual reference so that I know right away that it's an appointment. So one thing you can do is you can either use the signifiers we've got in the guide, or you can come up with your own little list of signifiers, and that's a way for you to keep a visual shorthand of the stuff you're doing. So for me, you can see we've got our triangle is our appointments, our squares are our tasks that we need to do, and then as we complete those tasks, we're checking it off. As we go to those appointments, we're filling in the triangle. We've got this star to show us it's super urgent that we do things, or a heart to show us that it's super important for us personally to do this. So that can be a really easy visual shorthand for stuff that you can do. And as I show you the calendar, I think you'll kind of see where that can be more useful, because that future log we've got on page 11 is pretty short, right? It's our major events that we've got going on that month, which may only be like 4 or 5 things, but our calendar is going to be much longer. And now we talked a little bit about threading. So you can see here at the bottom, this started on page 11 and I put an arrow to say page 19. So now if I flip to page 19, oh look, our future log is over here and we have an appointment here and we have an important to do here. So that's a really great way just for us to know, okay, it started on this page, it moved to that page, and there's an easy way for us to navigate between those. Okay, next thing's next. So we've got our index, we've got our future log. Our next thing we're going to look at is our calendar. So if we flip this page over, you can see I've got my January calendar, and a really useful way to write this in a bullet journal is to have the day of the month and the day of the week right next to each other in a row. So here you can see I've got 1F, so that tells me the 1st of January is a Friday, and I can look over here 30S and know that the 30th of January is a Saturday. So it's a really quick reference to what day is what in the month. And this, you can see, is where those signifiers have become useful again, right? Because I can take a quick look at this calendar and say, okay, it looks like the beginning of the month is pretty empty. I only really have 2 major things going on, but this last week is gonna get crazy. I have a bunch of stuff happening. So it gives you a quick view of, okay, these are the full parts of the month, these are the empty parts, this is some really important stuff I need to get done, maybe there's something here that's not so important, so that you can see what's going on. And when you're filling out this calendar for yourself, what's really helpful is to have something on hand that lets you keep track, that you use to keep track of your schedule. So maybe you use a planner for school, or maybe you put all your appointments in your phone, or maybe you have a billion different documents that lay out things you need to do and you don't have them all in one place. Whatever you use to plan out your month, or wherever you have that information written down, grab it, sit down with it, and as you're filling out this calendar, make sure that you're including everything that's important. And then this is also really useful too, right, for when you're filling out this urgent task list or that really important thing, things from our future log. Look back at your, phone appointments, look back at these other sources of information, and just make sure you're including everything that's important to you, so that you don't miss something. But if you do miss something, again, we can go back and add it later. If we run out of space, we can thread it over to another page. So bullet journals are really great about that. They're really flexible to work with. Okay, so let's say you filled out future log with major important tasks. You filled out your calendar with what you've generally got going on that month. Now let's go ahead, this one's optional, and do just our January task list. And this is a little bit different because before we were talking about events that were happening on a particular day, right? Appointments on a particular day, projects that were due, maybe you had a test you're planning for. The task list is very different. And you can see I've got here like, take out the trash, walk the dog, buy toothpaste next time you're at the store. So these aren't things that necessarily are happening on a specific day. Maybe they happen regularly, maybe they can happen whenever you happen to be in the area, but it's a way for you to make these kind of more general, less time-sensitive plans and keep track of what you need to do. And you can see I've got the box to show it's a to-do, and I'm checking off the ones as I finish them. So that can be a really great way to keep track, and you can just keep adding boxes as you need them and checking them off as you go, just to kind of keep yourself on track. If you don't end up doing it that month or you don't get to it, you can migrate it over to your next month's bullet journal. And if you keep moving a task over and over, that's a really great way to show that maybe it's not a big priority for you right now. Maybe you need to reconsider whether you want to do it at all, right? Or if it is an important thing, maybe you need to change your schedule around a little bit to make it easier to do it. So bullet journals can really be a great way just for you to think critically about how you're using your time, right? And what's really important to you and what you want to prioritize. So take some time, fill out your calendar, your tasks, and your future log. And that's really the meat of the bullet journal, right? That's this important kind of task planning, getting your life in order type things. But there's a lot of other cool stuff that goes in bullet journals because they're not just a planner. So the next thing we've got on here is our logbook or our diary. So I put it on page 8, we can turn there. And that's exactly what it sounds like. I've got maybe some ideas that I came up with and I want to write them down so I don't forget. Something happened to me that I want to remember. Or, I had some thoughts about something I wanted to record. I wanted to, write some little segment of a story or something. It could be anything that's important to you as you're going along, but your logbook, your diary lets you kind of record these important things that have happened or thoughts or ideas that you've had or brainstorming sessions, so that you can have kind of this more creative outlet too, right? So it's not just a list of dates and times, it's also a way for you to kind of record your own thoughts. And in that vein, we have another thing, and I've put collection on page 10 here, and what the collection is really up to you. And what I mean by that is you can decide what you'd like to record in here. Maybe you love to doodle or draw and you want some pages where you can do that. I am a huge doodler, so that's a big thing for me. Or maybe you like to record shows that are going to premiere that you want to watch, or movies you're looking forward to. What I've got here is a list of books that I want to read that are coming out in 2021. So whatever it is that's important to you, you can write in your collection page, and you can kind of keep track of it. And I'm using this little dot. That was the signifier that I chose for my logs, because that's what it is. It's not something I have to do. It's just something I'm keeping track of, right? Because it's interesting information for me. Okay, so that really bare bones, very simple, is the basics of bullet journaling. And then the last most important concept to leave you with is called migration. So I've mentioned this a couple times, but as you fill up your January journal, or you run out of space, you're gonna migrate over to a new bullet journal, right? And when you're in this new bullet journal, that is where you're going to take this and take your task list and everything, and you're gonna migrate over whatever you didn't get done. So that migration is a really great opportunity for you to see kind of what we were talking about before. What's important to you? What are you accomplishing? How are you using your time? And as you move from month to month and are using bullet journals more and more, you'll start to get a better picture of your schedule and a better picture of how you're planning things out. So it's a really cool hobby and a really cool way to kind of get a handle on planning for yourself, right? And this is really the stripped down basic version, not too fancy, but you can kind of do colored pens, washi tape, stickers. You can kind of dress it up a little bit to make it fancier as you go. And if you look down in the description of this video, I've included some links to some resources from the library, like some books that we have, including the book by writer Carol explaining bullet journaling, if you want to do kind of a deeper dive into it, and some websites where you can look at examples of some of the more complicated bullet journals and kind of get a sense of how crazy they can get if you want to explore. But really the most important thing to remember is just to have fun with it and to make sure that it's something that matches your needs and your schedule. So you don't have to replicate exactly how I did my bullet journal, right? You want to make sure that it's fitting your flow and your process, that you're putting things in the order that makes sense for you, and you're putting the things in here that make sense to you. So don't be afraid to deviate from the list that's in the instructions here. It is totally up to what's working for you. All right, well, thanks for joining us today. We hope you had fun with bullet journaling, and hopefully you found a really fun new hobby for 2021. If you want to check out our YouTube channel, we have a bunch of other videos on some crafts and projects that you could try out. And if you head to ppld.org, that's our website, and you'll see a bunch of other online resources for bullet journaling and for all sorts of other things. So have a great day.